The subway hike, Zion, Utah. I gotta say, this was on my bucket list for a long time. Stanley King here, Stanley King channel. What a cool hike this was. I saw pictures, I saw videos of this place forever, and man, this hike did not disappoint. So much fun. All right, that was the 30-second version, so here's the full story. The subway. That's my buddy there, Ron, man, coming out of nowhere. Donnie McCurry. And that's Zach Johnson with hair, and that's Adam back on the right there. He's a helicopter pilot. Well, we went in with this motley crew up at Zion, Utah. We were able to pull a pass to go on this hike. You don't just get to go. Look at Ron, man. This guy's just a hoot. So much fun. We were having a great time down there. I think that was like a petrified cow poop or something, but that's me, Stanley King. Gorgeous hike. We went in from the top down. There's Adam, and man, we were just giddy. It was so cool to go across the. Look at Ron, man. This guy's just nonstop the whole time. He just had been on a fitness binge, and he got himself in shape for this hike. We just about killed him. There's Zach Johnson with hair, showing us the way down. This is the very first part where we dropped in the chute, and I thought, man, this is straight down. This is crazy. We're scrambling over rocks and roots, and it was tough getting down in the canyon. I just couldn't even believe it. And right away, all of a sudden, you started seeing that so-called famous, it was the subway formation. And then Zach brings us right down and says, you got to slide through this rock, go through this hole, and luckily Donnie went first. He's a pretty good climber. He knew what was going on, but man, it was, once we were in, there was no coming out. Everywhere you go down this canyon, it was, I wouldn't say this is exactly for the faint of heart. I mean, you can do it if you're an intermediate hiker, but I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. I saw, there we go, Donnie McCurry. It's just beautiful, but it starts out, you know, you're going through some water, a little bit, some standing water, depends on the time of year. This is a place where they have flash floods, so you had to drop down through these little canyons that are just carved out of the sandstone, and a lot of time you had to go down, you know, right through the water and swim, and it was cool. So Zach, he was our guide. He's done a lot of hiking up there. He's actually out of Cedar City now, but he's like, jump on in, and that water it was not exactly super warm. It was probably 50, 60 degrees, something like that, and you know, you just kind of had to go for it. So there was a lot of woo. I mean, it was cool though. You went through and you just had to get back in the sun again. Otherwise, you thought, man, look at Donnie's trying to keep his pack dry. That was completely futile because everything on this trip got wet. And the best way to stay warm was just keep moving. There goes Ron, man. Look at that. Man, he's like almost like an Olympic swimmer. He's so good. And Zach just watched us and just shake his head and roll his eyes. And he listened to us and thought, these guys are all, you know, late 40s, early 50s, and they're a bunch of high schoolers. But, you know, we definitely did have a blast. There was no doubt about that. And super fun. Zach's got that whole pack full of ropes, and we needed it because I guess this would be called kind of entry-level canyoneering. This was about a 13-mile hike down, and it was no joke. I mean, some of the places, you know, were a little more slippery than others, but you definitely had to just kind of suck it up, like right there, and just deal with the cold water and get through and get to the next spot. And until that sun came up in the middle of the day, man, there were a few times I was shivering pretty good, but you know, you make it all work, that's for sure. Look at, here comes Ron Man again. Look at that. You just got to go for it. And sometimes that water is not flowing super quick, so you're just hoping there's not a dead animal in it or something. But Ah, it's so cool. You're going through these super narrow, twisty winds, and the scenery is just spectacular, gorgeous. If you like adventure and you like, doing stuff that a lot of people haven't done, this is, it's just right up there. Look at Ron's face. That's cold. He's like, woo! And those little choke rocks, those are kind of cool. They're just stuck there in between the sandstone. And, if I went there next year, this place would look completely different again, because when the water comes through with the flash floods, it pushes so much debris and sand around. Everything looks different except the sandstone walls. It's just wild, the amount of water that'll sometimes come through these areas. So we made sure that no storms were upstream on the day we went. And I really looked at the weather, because you just don't want a thunderstorm to come in and hit. Look at that. Those are springs there on the right. And then here's another, you have the webbing up there, and you just gotta go down, and whoop, there goes Ron Man underneath. This is like riding one of those Bronco deals at the bucking Bronco, the mechanical bull deal. Pretty funny. That is crazy. But so I was actually able to hold on there. I thought I was going over too, like the other guys did, but I was able to hold it out. There were other places where I definitely made a mess out of it, but really, really cool. We saw, this was so neat. Look at that. It's God, the water, as you went further down and further down, there was more and more water in the subway. And it was just, the color of it was gorgeous. A lot of it was super blue, and then we would jump in and stir up the mud. But it was just cool to, see the rock walls and see the water. And this was such a great memory, and it was just so much fun. There goes Ron Man again. Donnie had already jumped out, and like I said, it was futile to try to keep anything dry. If you didn't have it in a dry pack or, like a triple Ziploc bag or something, it was definitely going to get wet. So I had all my wallet and, car keys and cell phone locked in a waterproof bag. And this was the big corner right here. This is the one where you see all the photos, and you see that tree that's just down there, and it's just magnificent. It's like when you show up here, you're like, I've seen that, because you've seen it thousands of times. It's such a magnificent sight. Really, really cool to walk through that. And this is the iconic subway right here, and then a little further down as well. But man, it was, my hair on my arms was just sticking straight up. It was probably because it was cold too, and the wind was blowing a little bit. But so cool to come through here. And once you got through this little chute, I realized why we look at Ron. Ron Man. Yeah, the guy was laughing the whole time. I know by like mile 10 he was just beat and gassed out, and all of us were pretty tired, because you're tromping through the water, and you're just lifting your feet up, and they're wet and cold, and the only thing that was good, your ankles would swell up. That cold water would make them feel pretty good. But once we came down through this slot here, you had these beautiful waterfalls and just gorgeous, and all of a sudden it's like boom, there you are. This is kind of, I guess you'd call it the halfway point. You had to rappel down to get off of this shelf, and this was the spot that, I'm not a climber. I was just kind of, like lean back. You got to do what you're supposed to do there, and I did it fine, but it's just so hard to trust the rope. And Donnie, he's got lots of experience doing it, and that guy Adam at the bottom, he's a rescue helicopter pilot or something, so he knew exactly what he was doing. But everybody was pretty patient, and which man, it was so fun. It's such a cool group of guys. Like Donnie's just like went right back to his training on all this kind of stuff, and was able to pick right up where he left off, and he knew what he was doing. That was cool. So, you know, it probably took 30 minutes to get through this section. Probably half of it just for stupidity of, you know, going, I don't know if I should hang my body off that cliff or what. But once you get going, it's, you know, no big deal. You're definitely locked in and it's all okay. But yeah, there were definitely a few people hanging out in this area, and some were pretty nervous to go through. And I told Ron and Donnie and Zach and Adam, I said, you know what? When we get down to those iconic pools of the subway, I said, I'm going to jump in one of them and I'm going to swim right through it. And the water was freezing. So we got through this section right here, you know, climbing over the pools. And then it brings you right into this section that's got a lot of algae and you can't even really walk and you have to slide down. It's either you go on your hands and knees or on your butt, and the only way to go is on your butt and just slide like a little kid. Look at Ron. It's by this point your body's right here. Woo, man, it's chilly. But these pools are just gorgeous. It's just so nice. You know, and then here's the other part of the iconic subway. You can see why they call it the subway. It's just this big tube that comes through and just gorgeous. Look at that. Isn't that spectacular? And here's where we had to slide down on our butts, and there was pretty much no way you were going to walk that without some kind of special rubberized shoes or something. And I got down that and I thought, you know what? This is full on bucket list awesome stuff. And you know, that was it right there. I was like, I'm jumping in that sucker. I'm going in. I'm gonna hit it. So there it is. I had to do it. And Ron Man went in right behind me, which was pretty funny. Yeah, so super cool. And look at Ron Man go. He had no problem doing that. I can't tell you how chilly that water was, but you knew the sun was coming, and by this point we were just, you know, hiking and just blowing through. And by the way, this video, this was taken actually probably like 18 months ago, something like that. So I've lost a couple pounds, so don't get critical or anything. No, it's so funny though, because it's like, you know, you think you're in the shape of your life and you're pushing forward, and man, that Zach, he probably weighs all of 130 pounds maybe, and that guy is just strong as an ox. He's able to go up and down these canyons, and the rest of us, we were huffing and puffing, and look at Ron there in the background. It's so funny. It's just gorgeous through here. We're coming out of that main. Look at Ron. He's just getting wrecked right here. You can just tell he's just destroyed on his energy level. But you know, we kept trying to eat as much as possible and keep the energy level up. So this would be if you were walking up. That's where we just came down. So I thought I have to walk back up and capture this a little bit. Just so beautiful in Zion National Park. It's just gorgeous. And look at this. And then down here, there's it's just those little cascades. It's like nothing you've ever seen. And I think this is called the crack or something like that. But the water just flows down in that little crack when it's low, and it's just so picturesque and beautiful. Ron, I wish I still had the commentary on this video, but he was talking about it hasn't come to the point where he has to drink his own urine yet, but he said we'd let him know. And everywhere is like any Ron, he's like, oh, you look like you need a massage. I'm like, dude, what? Okay, whatever, man. He's funny. But there is Motley Crue. But look at it. Every step of the way is just so gorgeous coming down here. So we probably had about 4 miles left at this point. And you're just going by waterfall after waterfall. It's just, oh man. If you get a chance to pull on the lottery, you have to enter on the, I think the government site for Zion National Park. If you get a chance to be lucky enough to get a date to go, you have to do this hike. I just highly recommend it. I don't care, you know, if you're in Europe or wherever, Australia, and you know you need to fly here to do it, do it. And if you're lucky enough to be somewhat local, we're from Vegas and Zach's from around the corner in Cedar City. Oh man, look at Zach. He couldn't stop laughing, man. It's crazy. You know, by this point we were kind of delirious, and of course I sat down in the water and I thought I'd cool off, and all of a sudden I started getting leeches on my body, and everybody was laughing like hell at me, and they were pulling them off, and I didn't think there'd be leeches. It was just like Little House on the Prairie or something, but it was cool. Man, we just had so much fun. But look at the scenery. It just doesn't stop. But that's how you're walking. You know, it's through and through and through. And the fish are everywhere. And as you get further down the stream here, the water gets deeper. And it's just, there's so many fish. And it's just so gorgeous. You can't believe there's an area on Earth like this. It's just wild. So, so old Zach Smith there, who we call Zach Johnson with hair, he's a heck of a guide. You can hire him to take you through Zion, and if you want any information on it, just send me a message on YouTube and I'll get you his information. And they call this Hell's Quarter Mile. So you got to climb out of the canyon to get back up to your car. And this is where it was getting really hot, and it was slow going, and the heart rate was high, and oh man, I was done here, and Ron was done, and I mean we were just it was a long day, so it was definitely a full day deal. You can't do this in a couple hours. This is one you got to plan out. But again, if you can do this, I recommend it so much. It's just gorgeous. Don't do it without a permit, because they'll fine you or whatever, and they keep track. But there it is, Zion Wilderness Zone, the subway hike at Zion National Park. All right, Zach, thank you so much. And gentlemen, man, it's great to make the memories with you. All right, guys, we'll see you out on the trail, huh?